This is Shelia Butler with Successful Women Talk, and I am most excited. And I know I say most excited, but today I'm super excited. We have special guest, David Siteman Garland. Now, David's an entrepreneur, an author. He's the founder and host of The Rise to the Top, and he's my mentor, whether he knows it or not. So I want to say welcome, David.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here that I had to wear not only a fluorescent shirt type thing here, but I had to go shower. So I think I'm still like dripping from it, and I am excited to be here.
Pretty and clean. You can't beat that.
Pretty and clean. That's how I roll.
Well, awesome. Well, let's get started, David. One of the first things I usually like to ask my guests is tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in business, or for you, how you started your show.
Yeah, mine's an interesting story because I never thought about it as business when I first started this. I have been very, very passionate about something for a very long time, and that is what I would call broadcasting, right? So broadcasting as in doing your own show or, anything related to doing your own show. I mean, we're talking like when I was in fourth grade for a presentation, I did a fake play-by-play announcing without any game going on, wearing a suit. Do you know what I mean? Like I was doing weird stuff at a young age in broadcasting. Now, here's the thing. I always thought to myself, though, I don't know why, looking back, that was like something other people did. Like it was sort of like a fun thing that I thought was cool, but I didn't go to school for that. I didn't go to training for that. I didn't do anything really to pursue it until after college. And the quick story is that I was involved in a professional inline hockey league, which is the randomest thing in the history of mankind. And what happened was I ended up with a local radio show where I'm from in St. Louis. Long story short, the radio station came to me. They said, "Hey, do you want to do an inline hockey show? We have some extra time on Saturdays. We could fit you in, da-da-da-da-da." And without thinking, without going through it, I was like, I'm in. I'm going to do it because this was almost like a rekindling of something from childhood, if you will. And so I started doing the show, and I loved it. I had no idea what I was doing. I was absolutely terrible. Looking back, I would write out every single word what to say. Like there was no like unscripted. I mean, it was like every single word. It was crazy. So I fell in love really again with broadcasting, and then took that to television and online with my show, as you know now, The Rise to the Top, which started as a show for entrepreneurs and now has evolved since then to really be a show about shows and broadcasting, if you will, because that's really what I'm passionate about. And the rest is sort of history. So that's kind of the short, very, very short version of it.
I love that story, and I love how you took something that you didn't even know as a child in your childhood, and it's now kind of like your dream, and you're living. It took you maybe full circle to get there, but you're now living your dream. A dream that you guys 323 episodes at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, looking back on it, it's just kind of cool. Like I feel very blessed with what I get to do for a living, and I think that what's cool about the internet with this stuff is that you can just go. I mean, you don't need someone to say, you're good enough to have a show or hey, that topic's a little weird, like, whatever it might be. You could just go. And that's really what I did. I love the freedom of being able to sit here where I'm at right now in my condo, with my kind of Revenge of the Nerds looking equipment here, doing these shows. I mean, it's really like, something that you have to sometimes pinch yourself and say, wow, this is cool. And it's a business,
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So when you started out, you just got out of college, and I think your degree's like in women's studies, which is a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story, but that is absolutely true. Am I the first male guest, by the way?
No, actually, we had Srinivas Rao on.
Well, he doesn't count. But yeah, first women's studies male guest. And
there you go.
Yes, I have a degree in women's studies from WashU.
So let me ask you this. So how you did that, and then what were you planning on doing when you got out of college? So, I mean, you're in this now, but like, where did you see yourself?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So going through college, I had no idea. I majored in women's studies because it was interesting, and I love the small classes, and I like women. All these things added up to, following sort of something that I found interesting. That's sort of how I've always lived, is sort of looked at something that I was interested in or passionate about and kind of do that and figure it out, So after college, I was trying to come up with a game plan. And my first thought was I loved inline hockey, and that was just such a random thing. I love hockey in general, sports in general. And there was a rink out in California that I originally was going to move out to California and do marketing. And I'm putting that in quotes because I just sold myself all to this rink, and they were like, oh, come on out. It was like the most unofficial thing you've ever seen in your entire life, okay? And so what happened, though, was 2 weeks before I moved out, they called and they said, the rink's becoming a parking lot. Don't come to California.
Oh.
All right? Awesome, right? So now I am like suburban dad minus dad. I'm like stuck out in the suburbs. I'm not a dad, but I'm out in the suburbs of St. Louis. I had moved back to my dad's house at the time, trying to figure out what the heck to do. And I took some interviews, like family hooked me up with a couple different things, like real estate, like different stuff like that. That's giving me an anxiety attack just to talk about it anyway right now. But I went in there and I just wasn't excited at all. And I felt like I was having trouble at 22 getting the ball rolling off the hill. I figured once I got it rolling, I could steer it, but I need to get it rolling. I need to start somewhere, But I didn't want to start in something where I then would be trapped forever. Little thing fell over. Trapped forever. So what ended up happening was a former inline hockey coach came to me and he said, listen, there's this league coming to St. Louis. It's a grassroots professional hockey league. We're going to do 4 teams, another one in Cincinnati. We need help with the league. Period. Can't tell you anything else. We need help. I said I'm in. Like
it's
a crazy,
money. Yeah.
like a crazy. But no, it wasn't even money. Oh. That's even funniest part. No money. Hang on, we will get to this because this is the best part. So it was not like, oh, here's a salary and you can get started. It was more like, why don't you come in and figure out how to make money?
Love
like,
that.
You just figure it out. And if you can make money, awesome. If not, it'll just be a hobby. And so I don't know why, but out of my crazy brain, I'm like, I can figure this out. And no business experience, not a degree in business, as you know, nothing like that. Came in and for 2 years, like, crushed it there, figuring out everything, the good, the bad, sweeping floors, announcing, signing sponsorships, getting people through the door, printing tickets, like anything you needed to get done. I mean, I hired a half clown, half Elvis once, Clownvis, to come out. And I think he's a pedophile, but be that as it may, it was my real life MBA at that point of learning how to do things. So I learned quickly how to make money at doing something that I liked. And, then that led when the radio show opportunity came. And then that kind of led back down the broadcasting journey mixed with entrepreneurship.
I love that. And I love that you said that was your real life MBA. So a lot of people think, to start a business, I have to have an MBA. And a lot of people that are entrepreneurs will tell you that will actually hinder you instead of help you.
Yeah, and I think everyone's different with the way that they like to approach it. I am definitely like the, for lack of a better term, impatient. So meaning I wanted to get going. Like I was itching to get going. I wasn't itching to like sit in class more and then get going. I was like, I'm gonna do it, and I knew I was gonna screw up. I knew that there was gonna be mistakes. I knew that I didn't know very much, if anything. But I figured if there was an industry that I liked, that I really enjoyed, being around the people and what it was doing, that I would then, find that passion for business. Because I wasn't the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world or people like that had like 18 lemonade stands when they were 6 or something. I wasn't that like lifelong entrepreneur. It was more that I discovered entrepreneurship so that I could do something that I was passionate about and enjoyed, and then combine those things.
I love that. Well, so when you decided you've gone down that path a little bit, you've gotten back into broadcasting, and now you've decided to launch the Rise to the Top. Were you like at all thinking, okay, where's the money going to come from? Or same thing, I'm going to just make this happen, and if it's meant to be, it will all happen?
Well, a little bit of both. So let me explain a little context here, is that the radio, the way that it worked was a very interesting model. Because this is how I started the Rise Top originally. And here was the model of radio. It was paid programming. I'm putting that in quotes because it was legitimate time. Like it was, I think it was 11 to noon or noon to 1 on Saturdays. Okay. They ran ads, however, I could do sponsorship plugs during my show. And then I paid a very nominal amount. I mean, it was like insanely low. I want to say $500 a month, something like that for that hour. But then I could sell 2,000 or 3,000 of sponsorships, something like that. Okay. So I call that leveraged media. That's how I started on radio. And I said, well, what if we took that exact same model and brought it to television? So that was how it started. So it actually didn't start as an online show. It evolved into an online show, but it started as a local TV show here in St. Louis on ABC. And so what I actually did, though, was before we aired, even one episode. I put all my savings into it. So my bar mitzvah money, like everything that I had, like from when I was 13. And then I went around to sponsor relationships that I built up through the radio show, through pro inline hockey, through anyone I could, stalk. And I went in there and I said, I want to do a show. It's going to be about entrepreneurship. I had already negotiated with these TV stations, made some connections there. I said, it's going to start, I think it was October. This was I put the whole thing together in less than 2 months. And I was able to sell $60,000 or $70,000 of sponsorships before we even shot an episode.
Wow, that's terrific.
And mixed with that, with my savings, I was able to kind of get the ball rolling there and get it going from the beginning. So there was, so you could say, yeah, there was a plan. The original plan was, let's get this on air, let's get some sponsors and local advertisers in, and then that's how, hopefully it can turn a profit. And that was sort of the original concept.
I love that. So how challenging, now when you started Rise to the Top, your model today, not really your model, but your niche today is a little bit different. Can we talk about that a little?
Yeah, it's evolved. So everything's evolved since 2008. So 2008 was when I started it in October, and that's when the first episode aired on ABC in St. Louis, right? And so there's been a very interesting evolution. I'm a big believer in change in business because I feel like too many people get stuck, and being a creative side of the brain, I need to have change, or I go crazy, whether it's every year, every couple years, but I also wanted to build something for the long term. So that being said, when the Rise Stop started, this is fun. I've never actually laid this out. It was a TV show, okay, local, about entrepreneurship, and also we took the episodes and put them up online. Then I ran out of all the interesting people to interview in St. Louis. Hearts here, started traveling around to interview entrepreneurs, still airing it locally, still airing it online. However, then we started to pull a little bit more of a national audience, right? Because, people knew who Gary Vaynerchuk was and the millionaire matchmaker Patty Stanger. She has a bigger appeal. So people started, being more from everywhere. Then I discovered doing interviews online, Skype, and this was before, there was a lot of people doing it by any means. And I started saying, oh my God, I can sit here, as an experiment, see if this works. Next thing you know, people are loving these uncut, uncensored, Skype interviews. So it then was entrepreneurship, but not locally and done via Skype. And that's when it really took off as a web show at that point. And since then, the only changes haven't been in medium, because ever since 2009, end of 2009, it's been 100% a web show. Okay. The change, though, has been an evolution of topic. And so it's gotten more and more specific over time, including one time when I screwed up something. But what it does, it's entrepreneurship. Then it kind of moved more towards what I would say online entrepreneurship, if you will. And then I took a random pivot that didn't make any sense and that was stupid like 2 years ago, it was like anyone that was interesting, which was not a great idea. It was fun, but, as you know, being too broad is not a good thing.
Right.
Then I started really focusing more on mediapreneurs, so people that create media. And now the next evolution, spoiler alert, is really focusing on people that create shows, podcasts, and are online broadcasters, because that's what I'm passionate about. So it's made quite, and I think that's bound to happen when you do something for 4+ years. There's going to be some kind of evolution. Some are going to be right, some are going to be wrong. But I think, some people always think I'm nuts anytime I change anything, and that's fine. But that's sort of the path it's gone, and so that's what I'm excited about now.
I love that, and I think that's probably what makes you so popular. And I've followed you for a while now, and you're really good at branding and changing your brand. So you change your look. If you go back and look from the beginning of where you are, where your site is today, and your equipment today, and there so many things have changed. And I love that you've narrowed that down. And a lot of people, I think, in business want to go too broad. And if you're, like to say, I'm just going to highlight any successful woman. Well, that's just almost too broad. Even though I still don't know exactly where the show will be like 3 years from now, but I know that it needs to narrow down. I think that's terrific that you found that as well.
A couple notes on that. By the way, my graphic designer, I think, wants to kill me / love me on a daily basis. I go crazy. Like, I'll just be like, we're changing everything. You know what I mean? Like that's just That's just the way I go. A few notes on that, on about kind of niching up, if you will. I think there's two approaches to it that are smart, in my opinion. And I agree, by the way, that getting towards a niche is a good thing, right, as opposed to broad. One, if you can hammer it right away from the start, awesome, God bless you. Not a lot of people can. Do you know what I mean? Like, not a lot of people get all the way down to the exact space that they want to be in for the next 5 years on day one. I mean, it's a very, if you can, and there's exercises that I give, to people, and you know this, to try to get down there, awesome. If you know that you're going to do the show that is about mom's fitness in the Midwest, God bless you, or whatever it is. But what I've noticed, and I think this is typical, in a good way, is that you start a little broad. You start a little bit broad, with something like kind of what you're doing, with successful women, okay? Over time, you're going to start thinking to yourself, you know what, I like this subset of successful women. Or, you know what, I hate women now. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm with women. We're moving it. But that sort of happened with me, because when I was interviewing so many different types of entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, mom and pop entrepreneurs, like, lawyers who are out on their own, like anyone, I started realizing, God, I really resonate with them, not so much with them, not so much with them, and you start to narrow it down. So I think some more practical advice is just start where you think you need to be, and then pay attention, though, and not be afraid to continue to narrow down a little bit, and notice that, yeah, your audience is going to change and evolve. That's just all part of it. But, when you get that passionate subset of super fans that stay with you, that's where kind of the magic happens.
I agree. And I think you do have some super fans. So let's talk about that a minute, because you're very good at engaging with your community. So how did you grow that community, and what tips might you give to someone that has a new show like this that's trying to get some traction out there?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, and I will give some tips here. And I think one thing to think about is that everything's always evolving. You know what I mean? So, like, anything that worked for me, it might work, it might not. But there's some principles, you know what I mean, and tips that always stay the same. So a few things that I did, I mean, a lot of it was just pure hustle. I identified in my space who the key people were that I wanted to form a relationship with. And I found ways by hell or high water to connect with them. Whether it was reviewing their book on the show, whether it was, just mentioning them in the show, giving a little shout out, whether it was asking for an interview, whether it was promoting something that they were doing, whether it was getting off my butt and going to an event that they were at to meet them in person. You know what I mean? Do these things. So one of the key things was forming relationships with people in the space. And when you have a show like you do and I do, it's a atomic weapon for doing so. Because think about that. If I just emailed, let's just pretend Seth Godin, and I was like, hey, Seth, give me a bunch of advice, and I want to say hi. You're like, what is wrong with you? But when you interview Seth and you say, hey, you know what? I was doing my show last week. I loved your new book. Let's, pick your favorite Seth Godin book, Tribes. Whatever. I love Tribes. I did a little mention of it. I just want to thank you for the inspiration, and hello. You're going to get a wonderful response, from something like that. Like, he's going to pay, even if he doesn't respond, he's going to know, and you can build a relationship based on giving. That's the way that I've always done it. I want to promote other people. And then, I said, Seth, when your next book comes out, give me a heads up, and I'd love to have you on the show if you'd like to come on, and we can promote it and we could talk about it and do stuff like that. He said, sure, here's my assistant. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard, but having a show is a big weapon for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because, as when you have someone on, or when you build a relationship with them, you don't have to ask them. At some point, they're going to hopefully promote you, or, something like that. So that was one of the key strategies that I had. Another one was really, this doesn't work necessarily in every single niche, but I quantified myself as an expert in certain areas. I hate the word expert, but it is what it is. So meaning I was going out speaking a lot on social media at the time, because that was something that I knew a lot. I still know a decent amount about. And I was, a lot of people were coming to me because I had a lot of guests on that were very, very social media related folks. Built brands on social media. So I would use speaking and, events and stuff like that to get my name out there and the show name out there. So that was number 2. Number 3 was I threw my own local events in St. Louis. So, and this doesn't necessarily paint by the numbers situation for everyone here, but events are unbelievable for relationship building and branding, right? So relationship building, because you get to meet people face to face, they get to know you for real. Second of all, think about events now, Sheila. Like last event you went to, I bet people put photos up, they probably put videos, like they do, right? Like because everyone's a content creator, right?
That's right.
So your event lives much longer than the 3 hours that it exists. So I threw I threw 36 local events, which is scary as to think about, in the first 2 years to get entrepreneurs out there, meet them, like have some fun. And it wasn't a moneymaker. I mean, I want to say it broke even, possibly even lost a couple bucks. But I think the long-term equity it builds up was important, you know? The third thing was, you know, connecting with all the other media sources in your space. Bloggers, show hosts, all those people, and getting to know them, you know, whether it's promoting them or getting them on or anything you can, because those can become very, very much mutually beneficial relationships. So you know, focusing on those kind of, you could call them not just the influencers that I mentioned before, but people that really, really have an audience that's similar to yours.
Right.
And other than that, and this is, I think, the secret sauce, if you will, and it's simple but not easy. Simple but not easy is interacting your butt off. You know, that's what I spend so much time doing this. You know this, Sheila. Like, and this is the key: is that when you have a show or when you're creating an online brand, a lot of people like to put it up and kind of sit back. You know what I mean? Like once people come in and they leave a comment or something like that, the first comment. You know, for me, I spent years, and I still spend a lot of time doing this, answering every comment that I possibly can on my site or on Facebook. Or on Twitter, or on LinkedIn. Does it take time? Yeah, it takes time. You know what I mean? But you can scale this up over time, because this is how you create that passionate subset we're talking about. Responding to people. You know, letting people promote their stuff, sometimes on my fan page or things that you've seen that, like shameless plug. You know, where I let people promote. I get to know anyone that comes in, those first few fans, you know, those people that are coming in, and then that snowballs. You know, you get to be known as a person that interacts with people, and that's a good thing. You know, I spent 3 years answering every single email that I possibly got. Every single email, no matter what. And at the beginning, they would get War and Peace back from me because I wasn't that busy. You know what I mean? Oh, David, I have a question. They get like a novel. You know what I mean? Now, not so much. I mean, God bless it. It's scaled up. It's something that's not scalable, but it helps it builds the brand. So now, as much as I'd love to, I can't. I physically don't have the time to respond to every single email. So I have help with that, and I also respond where I can. But I've positioned myself to be a person that is accessible. And to me, that's important. There's a lot of people out there that teach you how to be inaccessible. I'm sort of the opposite. I think you got to get in there and do it, because I've seen too many shows, and this is my final rant here, too many shows and too many brands that don't work because the person, the human that's behind it, doesn't want to get in there and lower themselves, and I'm putting that in quotes, to talk to people. And if you don't have that, you're not going to build a passionate fan base that cares not only about what you're doing with business, but in life. You know what I mean? Like now,
I totally agree.
People that are following you, my vacation stories and stuff like that. If I started something like that from the beginning without any context of other stuff, no one would care. People are like, who's a psycho just putting vacation stuff up? Who cares about this guy? But it's the time, it's the interacting, it's the creating great content. All those things come together to form those relationships.
I love that. I agree. Those are great tips. I think, and being a people person, luckily I am a people person. And in business, you know, I built a business that I sold a couple of years ago that was a very successful business. And I say we built it on great design and terrific customer service. I think it matters. It matters that you know your customers. That matters to them.
Yeah, and by the way, besides all this interacting and stuff and all those things that are important, you just hit on another key word that I think people overlook: design. It matters a lot. Yeah. Looks. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it here. I mean, looks matter, and I think when someone is starting and their audience is, you know, mom and the cat.
Exactly.
Mom and the cat. You know what I mean? Like that's it. All starts with mom and the cat. Like, you're doing such a good job, you know, but. Do you look like you're taking this seriously, or does it look like amateur hour? Doesn't mean you need to go spend $10,000 on design. It just means that you need to have a look and personality that fits where you're starting. You can always change it in the future. Like I said, I'm a branding nut. I change stuff all the time. But, you know, immediately when I go to someone's site, That's your front door. That is your house. I'm going to have an impression about you, how it looks. And if it looks like a template that everyone else has, and there's like crappy Google ads on the side, I'm going to be like, this is a clown. And we don't like clowns, so that's another good point there.
Let me ask you this. I totally agree, but let me ask you this real quickly. What about, where do you see, you hear a lot now about podcasting becoming much more popular. You have companies like Stitcher coming out. Where do you see web TV shows, podcasts in the future? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm just interested to see what your vision is on that.
I'm going to say.
I think you're going to say it's going to be a big thing.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be a big thing. I agree with you agreeing with me on my predictive point there. It is good. We're at the beginning of this. I like people that in 2005 or something said podcasting was dead. You know what I mean? Like they were like, oh, it's dead. Are you out of your mind? Maybe that, web shows and we could call it independent media, whatever you want to call it. People creating shows, independent broadcasting is on the rise. Big time. However, what I see, if I were to, look into a crystal ball, because there's going to be more and more opportunities to get on platforms, and that's awesome too, like Stitcher Radio, could be like a Roku or something in the future if you're doing video, things like that. Besides the opportunities, I think, to get on platforms, I really think we're getting to an era soon where things are going to get much more niche, much more niche. So you're going to see less fitness shows. You're going to see more kettlebell shows. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. You're going to see less nutrition shows. You're going to see more clean eating for women shows. You know what I mean? And I think that is where we're going to, and people are going to be able to build a business not around size, but on, tightness. Boy, did that sound bad. Okay, so let's just what I mean.
Narrow.
Said ever, but not size, tightness. So what I mean by that is that it might be that someone has 1,000 very passionate listeners, 500 very passionate listeners or viewers. However, if those are the right people and you're offering the right business model behind it, you're going to be successful at it. If you're doing it for business, if you're doing it for a hobby, that's fine too. Either way. So I see that happening a lot more in the future.
Then do you see that, let's say someone has a business that maybe they don't want to start a show, but maybe they own a furniture business. Do you see podcasting or a show like this helping them as far as branding and building awareness for their brand? Yeah,
I think it can help anyone. I really do. And I think people, though, have to take it seriously if they're gonna really have some clout with it. So it doesn't mean you just slap it up and it's talking about your furniture. But I think that there's a huge opportunity for businesses all across the board to create their own show. But the key is not necessarily making it about the product, making it about the people that you're trying to attract. So, let me give you an example. There's a brand that I once gave some advice to. I don't think they actually took it, but they agreed with it. So I guess is that there's a watch brand called Reactor Watch. It's cool watches, they're sporty watches. They've got a lot of athletes that endorse them, and big athletes and stuff like that. And they were at one point thinking about doing a show or something like that. And what I was concerned about was that they were going to do a show about the watches. Because no one cares.
Right.
Meaning oh, we got the new, whatever band thing. No one, I'm already sleeping just thinking about it. So I said, listen, who are the people that you're trying to go after? Well, it's these athletes and, people doing like that. Great. Why don't you do a show where you interview athletes? Why don't you do a show that could be tips for extreme sports or whatever the niche is that you're looking to go, focus on that topic and then sponsor your own show.
I love that. Yeah.
You sponsor your own show. You say you remind people of Reactor watches. You could get some announcements in there about what you guys are doing, but the content has to be something that people are going to actually care about. And people don't care about the product, but they do care about topics and people that they really like. And so that was my advice. And so if you're a furniture store and you're doing discount furniture, I'm just making this up, maybe your audience is people that are looking for discounts everywhere. You could do a show about discounts. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's different ways to go about it.
Just not about your product. Yeah, I heard a quote yesterday, something about don't think about your customer, think as your customer.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I just saw that quote somewhere as well. That was Derek Halpern.
Yeah.
How about that? I just know random quotes that you're finding too.
I was listening to, I love his show as well.
Oh, excellent show.
Well, let me ask you, this has been terrific. And I know that I start, the show's, it's a lot of work. So I'm not going to say if someone tries to do something like this that it's not a lot of work, because it is. And I'm like you, I want to do it what I think is the right way. Could I do more? Absolutely. But in general, I learned everything about my show from you. So you have a product. So let's talk about that just a bit.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, and you're rocking this, by the way. I love how you're doing this. You got me here. I'm like squirming only because I drink 1.5 gallons of water a day. It's over 30 minutes. I'm like squirming. But yeah, what happened was sort of by accident, and you know this story, Shelia, but I want to share it with your peeps, is that, people started coming to me all the time with questions about a show. When you have a show, people ask about the show. What equipment do you use? How do you get guests? What's your format? Like, how do you make money? How do you da-da-da-da? And the list can, and you know me on the email, I'm like, for like 3 years. So finally, I was like, I can't do the emails for the rest of my life. I'm going to take all the knowledge that I know about creating an interview-based web show or podcast, okay, and I'm going to put that into a digital training program where people can learn step by step every single thing that I know. Like how to get it started, how to get your guests, how to conduct an interesting interview, how to, post it and make sure people are watching it, how to go beyond mom and the cat, all the technology to use, because my philosophy on technology is keeping it very, very simple. I have a more complicated setup now, ironically, but the, exact workflow of how to put a show together, all these things I put together into a course called Create Awesome Interviews, which you're a graduate of course. And what I've done, though, is I've put together some free training videos for people as well. And really the idea behind the free training videos is, one, take them, they're yours. Like if you could get enough knowledge from them because they're content filled, and go off and do it, awesome. And then of course at the end of it, if you decide that you want to invest and create awesome interviews, there's an opportunity at the end of the 3-video course. So the 3-video course, it's at createawesomeinterviews.com. You just enter your email, first one gets sent away, and you can learn a lot just from those videos. But Shelia, I think you're going to test. The course is something that I poured a lot of time and effort into, and I think it's getting big results for people.
I love it. And just so that everybody knows, I get nothing from promoting this product, but I will say it is worth investing in. It was a terrific program. It's put together well. The information is absolutely wonderful. And David, you're a terrific mentor.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And this is what makes me extremely happy, is people like yourself that not only take the information, but then take action on it, because that's what it's all about. We're all about action takers. And so it's great. Anytime I see a new show that's coming up and someone's like so passionate behind it like you are, it just gives me the happies. So
I'm glad I gave you the happies.
I got the happies.
Well, listen, if someone did want to connect with you, where's the best place to send them?
Yeah, just go to therisetothetop.com is the best place. If you actually go to therisetothetop.com/VIP, you can get on the free email list. And as you know, I'm very personal with my emails. Like,
yes.
It goes out, and that's really the best way to connect there. You can find me on all social media sites. Just search for David Siteman Garland or The Rise to the Top.
David, this has been terrific. I certainly appreciate your time, and I appreciate all that you do.
Oh, my pleasure. And keep up the awesome work.
Thank you. I will. Keep checking in. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's our show, and thanks again for tuning in. Hey, I have a huge favor. I'd like for you to join us over at www.successfulwomentalk.com. Join our email list, and on that list, you'll be a VIP. You'll be receiving all of our newest updates, newest interviews, our newsletter, and any tips and tricks we have for organizing your business and getting raving fans and customers that actually just sing your praises. So again, thanks again for tuning in. Check us out next week for another episode of SuccessfulWomenTalk.com. Thanks, guys.